Hello, everyone, and welcome to a presentation from Virtual Concert Halls in Vox Novus to bring you 15 minutes of fame and plus a little bit extra at the end. We're going to be talking about the Turn Up Festival. It's wonderful to have Virtual Concert Halls help us bring these 15 minutes of fame performances to the greater public. Virtual Concert Halls is looking to highlight musicians on their virtual concert stage during this current climate where physical performances are difficult, if not impossible. This venture was born out of the desire to keep going and not give up what they value dearly. Virtual Concert Halls believes in that live performances are critical for performances, musicians, and their growth. Vox Novus is a new music production and promotion company which empowers composers, musicians, and the artists who collaborate with the field of music. Vox Novus has presented and promoted thousands of composers in more than 500 performances across the globe. 15 Minutes of Fame is one of those projects. So what is 15 Minutes of Fame? It is, we look for 1 minute pieces from 15 different composers that are written specifically for a musician to perform and premiere. We put out a call for works, we get a bunch of submissions, and then we present them to the musician to pick 15 pieces that he feels represents him in the call and so forth. This particular set of 15 is for the baritone Andrew White. He's a fabulous performer who's played these pieces actually quite a few times. And I would love to introduce Andrew to you. Hi, Andrew. How's
Hello.
it going?
Good, wonderful. Wonderful, glad to be here today.
So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a professor of voice at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and I'm really excited to have had the opportunity to do one of these installments of 15 Minutes of Fame. I have, because it's such an interesting project, I submitted it to various college music society conferences and other things, and ended up performing all of these works at a variety of different venues, and established relationships with many of these composers who have then written other works that I've had the opportunity to perform. So it's really been a wonderful experience, and continues to be a wonderful experience because here I am, performing them again for you.
And why don't you give us a little taste? Why don't you play Christopher Wicks' first piece? Let me see. It's For I Am Persuaded.
I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
That was awesome. Yeah, I remember when that opened up at Yuanyuan's church. I was just revisiting all those pieces just recently. Great. Actually, we have Andrew Wicks actually with a little comment about his piece. Let's hear that. Okay.
For I am persuaded. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Well, there we go. There's the encore. That was the performance at Yuanyuan's church, and that was the premiere, right?
It was, and unfortunately, that was the first piece, and I didn't realize that my stand was too low. I couldn't see, and so a couple times I didn't see what the word was on the page. So, yeah. But I think there was a miscue on the presentation that Christopher was hoping to give, but the thing that I asked for with this, because the performer, the composers submit works to the performer's criterion, and my criterion was that these be works for a baritone, either unaccompanied or accompanying himself on simple instruments that anybody can play. So this one involved the hand chime, obviously, but then others involve clapping of hands, stomping of feet. There's a singing bowl at one point, Tibetan singing bowl. There's a crystal glass that I play, things like that.
And when you You know what? Remind me. I know we got a bunch of pieces for this call. Do you remember about how many you got?
Oh, it was there. It was just broke my arm to not do several of them. It was I think in the neighborhood of 50 or 60 pieces ended up being submitted. It was a hard decision in many cases, but and in fact I've been wanting to get around to performing some of the ones I didn't do. But it really was a labor of love. And what I did was I tried to we're kind of breaking the whole thing up in this particular performance, but I had them so that there were pitch relationships between them. For instance, the opening gave me a D, and then I could pitch pretty much all the rest of the pieces off of that until I got to Ceremony, when I would play the singing bowl, which would give me a pitch. It was all sort of, there were pitch references to help me because I do not have perfect pitch. So,
right. Well, I mean, it came off awesome. I definitely recommend people to go and see the Yuanyuan's performance or it live, because it does work great as just a solid set. With that said, why don't we hear a couple of the next pieces? How about the next three pieces, by Casey Rule, Jose Souza, and Mike McFerron? It's at Stratford-upon-Avon by Casey Rule, Symphony at the Sea by Jose Souza, and Mike McFerron's Ceremony.
Thus spake his dust, so seemed it as I read the words. Good friend, for Jesus' sake, forbear, poor ghost, to dig the dust enclosed here. Then came the malediction on the head of whoso dare disturb the sacred dead. Outside the mavis whistled strong and clear, and touched with the sweet glamour of the year, the winding Avon murmured in its bed. But in the little Stratford church the air was chill and dank, and on the foot-worn tomb the evening shadows deepened momently. Then a great awe crept on me, standing there, as if some speechless presence in the gloom was hovering. And fain would speak with me. The smoky breath of Poseidon billowing over wintered wings. Silent thoughts magically sing. Glimmering like an ancient shrine, a mirror expanding endless miles, a melody floats upon the tides, lingering in cool sprays, Upon creamy foam the tune rides, and silver notes gently rise. The mermaid song plays on, unlocked by the coming dawn.
Fantastic. Awesome, Andrew. Great performances. Yeah, and I love the singing bowl. I guess we should bring in Mike McFerron. He's an excellent composer and a longtime collaborator of mine. Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Hey, gosh, Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of all of the wonderful, the amount of time that you've performed the pieces, I've forgotten how many times you've actually performed this piece, but I think that's the first time I've seen you do it. And I'm moved. Thank you so much. It's just really great.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful piece. This is a very enriching piece to perform.
Oh, thanks.
And Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, so I'm Mike McFerron, as the sign said. I live in the southwest suburbs of Chicago and teach at Lewis University. That's my day job, and then I write mostly electroacoustic music these days, and I run a festival. Rob's on the organizing team for that, called Electronic Music Midwest. We've been doing that for about 20 years. And so a lot of my area of scholarship, in addition to composing, is about producing and, helping promote new music anywhere I can. I'm also one of the co-owners and developers of New Music Engine, which is a website specifically for calls for new works. So that's what I do.
And what was when you saw this call for this piece? Did you know Andy beforehand, or?
I didn't. But when I saw the call, so I don't know which number of 15 Minutes of Fame this was, but I mean, Rob, you've done what, over 100 of them. I believe that this was the first one I ever submitted to, And the very reason I submitted to this 15 Minutes of Fame was because it was for a baritone. I have well, I'm a recovering baritone, so I quit singing years ago, but that really attracted me to this call in particular. I've been involved with the Vox Novus series of 60 by 60 and all of those iterations for quite a while, and I believe there's a great deal of that one can learn by teaching in a small format or composing in a small format or a small form. I use it in my teaching, and I oftentimes write short little pieces before larger pieces. And so that's what really attracted me, I think, most, was that it was 1 minute, that it was for a baritone. And I believe it's the only 15 Minutes of Fame that I ever applied to, actually. So, yeah, I couldn't.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, man, it's great. This was, and I just got to say, it's one of those things as a composer, that you write a piece of music and maybe an ensemble performs it, and then it goes on the shelf and collects dust. Maybe this piece is one of those pieces that's just, Andrews, you've just performed it so much. It's just always so wonderful to get an email from you of the places where you performed it. And so I'm sure I speak for the other composers to just tell you how grateful we are to you for championing our music. It's been great.
Absolutely.
That particular piece is unique in that it's so spiritual in its nature. Just the nature of the singing bowl and the idea of chanting. It's wordless, and attempting to reach to another realm. And so that's what attracted me to the piece. And I saw it and I said, well, this is definitely one that I have to include.
Yeah, an interest of mine has been in a lot of vocal music, this sort of coloration through vowels, and trying to find ways to mix those colors. And what sort of draws me, I haven't written a lot of pieces that have no text, that are just syllables like that. But I think from the listener's perspective, it allows sort of wiping away some of that narrative, opens up possibilities for an audience to sort of have it mean whatever they need it to mean at that time. And I do like the idea of, although most of my music is hard, loud, and fast, this piece isn't. And the idea of sort of a concert meditation. I thought that when I was writing this piece, that this piece, for it to really be successful, has to be programmed just right. And I think that how it arches or where it's placed in the 15 Minutes of Fame set does this piece a real service. That the programming of it is really important. And yeah.
And yeah, with that said, actually, Mike, stay around, because we'll be talking with you a little bit later about the Turn Up Festival.
Sure.
Another thing. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, Andrew, let's hear a couple more pieces. The next three that we have are from George Brandon, Amanda McCullough, and Eric Knechtges.
Jesus, it's beautiful. Great mother of big apples, what a pretty world. You're a bastard, Mr. Death, and I wish you didn't have no look in here. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I feel drunk all the time, and I wish to hell we didn't have to die. Oh, you're a lousy bastard, Mr. Death, and I wish you didn't have no hand in this game. because it's too damn beautiful for anybody to die. I'm sorry, this is not working properly. Maybe I need to wet it. That's what I needed to do. There we go. It had gotten dry. Okay, I'm going to start again. It's still doing that. I'm sorry. It's got to work right, otherwise the effect of the piece is gone. There we go. The clock strikes one that just struck two. Some schism in the song. A vagabond for Genesis has wrecked the pendulum. I cried unto the cosmos to reveal its meaning. Softly, softly, it whispered, "Be still, the secret will not be shared. It is shrouded in silence."
Wonderful. That's awesome. And I think we have Amanda McCullough in the background, right? Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Pretty good.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I teach choir and bands for a small school district in northeast Nebraska. It's in a small town called Bancroft, and it's about 50 miles southwest of Sioux City. That's a better reference point. It's basically just in the middle of cornfields and farms.
Cornfields are great.
Yeah, it's really pretty out here.
Awesome. And what brought you to write for 15 Minutes of Fame?
So yeah, I was getting my DMA in composition at that point. I think I was just looking at different competitions to maybe to send something to, and I don't know why this one in particular, but it seems interesting. Something I wouldn't have to do anything big and complex. I could just write something smaller. And this is a Emily Dickinson poem, and Emily Dickinson has a lot of good poetry. Especially like you find like a short little thing, like what I used. And I like using crystal glasses. I've used them in other pieces before, and yeah, they can be tricky whether they want to actually work or not.
It's true. And have you written like a lot of short pieces, or is this your first one? Or
I know I sent pieces in for other 15 Minutes of Fame, but I generally think a lot that I've done has been like large band pieces and maybe some choir pieces. Done more arranging for like show choir more recently, more stuff for school, for younger kids.
right. And so, and what about that? The the water glass for you, Andrew. What's the? I've actually also performed with them. They do tend to be tricky.
Yeah, well, and I don't think at Jan Hughes, I think that same damn thing happened. I hit it and it went clunk,
Yeah.
But
Maybe
this time I was just determined to actually get it to ring, and I think it makes a big difference. But I was attracted to it because of the glass, of course, but also the Emily Dickinson poem, and I felt like it, creates this sort of an atmosphere. And as you're doing a piece like that, you realize it's only 1 minute long, and you realize when it's done, hey, that just created an atmosphere, didn't it? For just 1 minute. But then also, I just wanted to say that it introduced me to Amanda, and then Amanda invited me to perform on her doctoral program, composition program at UNL. So that was ended up being just another wonderful opportunity to work with her. And I did some other pieces of hers that involved harp and
tuba.
And tuba, right.
Tuba, harp, and baritone.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, there's a story behind that instrumentation. My professor was also the orchestra director and was feeling bad because like they had a concert where everyone was involved except for the tuba and the harp player. And so I'm like, I'm going to write something for tuba and harp. and then that was like my own original poetry. So one of those was inspired by like, what's the story? What kind of story can you come up with that has a harp and a tuba? And that was like the fairy and the aurochs one, and I just kind of went from there.
Sounds awesome. And so let's. I don't know how many more we got. Let's see who's up.
David Bohn.
David Bohn.
And then L'Adieu by Jean-Patrick Bézigrand. And then Your Check is in the Mail by Juan Maria Solari. And then Desire by Doug Davis.
Excellent.
Now, I just a couple of words before I perform this David Bohn piece. This is my favorite piece of the group. Sorry, all the rest of you guys, lady. It's my favorite piece in the group because it's the hardest, and it's the hardest because it's the simplest. Because there are only 3 sounds in it. There's in the besides the singing, there's a stomp. There's and this is a piece that would be better if I was on a stage and you could see me, but you could kind of tell that my foot is stomping. So there's a stomp, there's a flap, and there's a clap, right? So there's 3 sounds. There are there's a zoom, the syllables. There's a zoom, a doom, a digga, and a zigga. And there are 4 notes. There's a D and F, and a G above the F, and a C sharp below the F, and that's all there is to it. 4 notes. Should be very simple, right? But it's not, because sometimes it's digga, sometimes it's zigga, and sometimes it's a flap, and sometimes it's and I get confused, and I don't think I've ever actually gotten it right. As many times as I've performed it, and I have performed it many times, and even in rehearsals, I don't think I've ever actually gotten it entirely right. But I'm going to try, and we'll see. Maybe this will be the time.
This will be the time.
This will be the time. But I just think it's interesting how simple things can become hard. And how it challenges you to rise to a level of musicianship, just to do what seems like it should be very simple. Anyhow. Zoom, dig it, zoom. Zoom, dig it, zoom. Dig it, zoom. Dig it, zoom. Dig it, zoom. Dig it, doom. Zig it, doom. Zig it, doom. Zoom, dig it, doom. Dig it, zig it, doom. Dig it, zoom. Dig it, zig it, zoom, doom, zoom, doom, zoom, doom, zig it, dig it, zig it, dig it, zig it, dig it, zoom, 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 dig it, zoom, dig it, zoom, dig it, zoom, dig it, doom, zoom. Chicailles ce bras de bruyère. L'automne est morte. Souviens-t'en. Nous serons plus sur terre. Odeur du temps, bras de prière, et souviens-toi que je t'attends. Check your check. Check in. In is in check. In check. 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 Check mail. Check your mail. Your mail. Your mail is in check. Your mail is mail the check. Your check is in the mail. Mailin'. Your mail is mail. Or rather female. Desire only that which is within you, for within you is the light of the world. Desire only that which is beyond you. For the Lord eternal shall draw you forth in beauty let me be yours.
Fabulous. Awesome. Everybody out in the World Wide Web can't see all the applauses happening in our chat, but everybody's so excited about your performances. We're talking about people in the chat. Let's bring in Doug Davis. Hi, Doug, and David Bohn.
Hi.
How are you guys?
I love David's piece.
Thank you. And unrelated, I love the piece you did for my clavichord project a few years ago.
Ah, right. That was fun.
Excellent piece. So
that was another short miniature call, right? The clavichord.
100 notes, yeah.
Let's see. David, why don't we start with you first? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a composer living in one of the suburbs of Milwaukee, and I've taught college-level music. Now I'm doing some substitute teaching at high school and middle school levels, and I'm a church musician. So, that's what I do.
And you've also written for a bunch of the 15 Minutes of Fame, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't your first one that you wrote for. What? No,
not by any stretch of the imagination. This was kind of in the middle. There was a year where I seemed to have performances on 15 Minutes of Fame roughly once a month, and this was kind of in the middle of that rather crazy section. So,
right.
And as far as my piece on this, I like to play with little tiny bits of material, whether it be small groups of phonemes or small groups of notes, patterns, and so forth. But I also like to change things up. And I kind of knew when I was writing this piece that it was kind of bordering into tongue twister land. Not because of the text per se, but when you combine the text and the rhythm together, and the way that I vary things from one iteration to the next, I knew that this was going to be a little bit of a hairball for anybody who takes it on. And this was actually the first of what turned out to be a cycle of 13 pieces for voice and body percussion. So, yeah.
So wait, so you have 13 more 1 minute pieces?
12 more 1 minute pieces for solo voice and body percussion.
Has Andrew seen any of these yet?
By all means, let me see those, David.
Okay, will do.
And Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm in Bakersfield, California. I'm fortunate enough to have a teaching gig at the Cal State Bakersfield, and I am now an emeritus professor, so I'm retired at this point. And I just want to say, hey, Andrew, that was fantastic. Really. I was very moved. I was sort of glad you didn't come to me immediately because I was very touched. That particular piece, it's an oddity to think about. A 1 minute piece, and this one really just has to do with being at some point in my life where I was in a bookstore and found a book and opened it up, and it said, "Desire only that which is within you." Well, I understood that, and I felt like that was extraordinary. And when it said, "Desire only that which is beyond you," it kind of completed the picture.
Right.
So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It was the message of the piece that attracted me to it.
Sure.
Because
Although pitches are not so easy.
yeah, well, no. What better statement, can one offer? We need to be looking within. I mean, I as a young man, I was inspired by the Beatles song, "Life goes on within you and without you." And it's a similar message of recognizing the beauty and the value that is in the depths of the soul, and the connectedness of that soul to the universe. In 1 minute, I get to say that, So it was another one I knew I had to choose.
Thank you. Super job.
It is a beautiful piece, and I think, sometimes, it's simple things become complicated. Complicated things sometimes, when they're just said simply, are more they're poignant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, we should just wrap this up. We got our last 4 to go, right?
Now, this one does require for me to play an actual instrument, and I've found that actually this cheapy little keyboard, I can get a sound that's pretty nice. And so, before I did it on a piano, but I'm going to try this and see how Stephen likes it. He told me I could play it on whatever instrument I like, so I'm going to use this one for now. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Epoxy! Epoxy Margaret! Epoxy, 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 epoxy Margaret! Epoxy! Epoxy! Epoxy Margaret! 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 Epoxy, epoxy, epoxy Epoxy Margaret, Epoxy Margaret, Epoxy Margaret, Epoxy Margaret. Garret, 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 Epoxy. Epoxy Margaret. Epoxy, 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 epoxy. Margaret, epoxy, Margaret, epoxy, Margaret, epoxy, Margaret, Margaret. Epoxy, Margaret, epoxy, Margaret, epoxy. Sunset sitting still inside. Living room, closed door, open hand. Armchair, arm bent, perpendicular. Open window, open eyes, looking at pink sky breeze by. Not cold, not sad, body bent. Perpendicular. Oh, Kharma, Dharma, pudding and pie, give me a break before I die. Grant me wisdom, will and wit, purity, probity, pluck and grit. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, kind. Give me great abs and a steel trap mind, and forgive ye God some humble advice. These little blessings would suffice to beget an earthly paradise. Make the bad people good, and the good people nice. And before our world goes over the brink, teach the believers how to think.
Awesome. Very great. I love it. Thank you, Andrew. Let's bring on the composers. I know we got there's Art and David. Is Jonathan around? Anyway, let me start by saying this. One of the great pleasures for me to have to be doing this project is sort of to bring my colleagues and friends and people that I've met over the years and worked with, and it's a great way to just like keep in touch, listen to their music and so forth, and just hang out. David and I, we correspond a bunch, but Art, I haven't seen you in a while since these interesting times. It's been a little bit wild. We usually hang out together with Mike at EMM. And Jonathan, yeah, you're one of my new friends.
Thank you. It's good to meet you finally.
Yeah, good to meet you. Let's start with Art. I see you're on the top there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and about this piece.
Sure. I'm Art Gottschalk, a composer. Trained at the University of Michigan. I've been teaching at Rice University Shepherd School of Music since the inception of the school in '77. I believe this year I may be the last man standing of the original faculty. The rest of those who retired or died or both. I've got one foot in the grave myself. What a fun thing to do. I met Robert a number of years ago. I think right when you graduated, you started this kind of thing, and I thought, what's he going to do with this? But you've done a lot of really neat things and come up with different ways of working with this concept of yours, and it's just been a lot of fun and admirable to watch you work.
Thank you.
So I haven't seen you non-virtually since maybe an EMM 2 years ago. But yeah, you're right. It always is fun. And Mike's, of course, one of the all-time great guys in the business. I've been teaching for 45 years at college level, 43 at Rice. This particular piece, I tend not to write for Robert's crazy calls, but it happens that I write aphoristically. So I tend to write short pieces, and oftentimes for one instrument or two. And so it just kind of worked out for me over the years, a short electronic piece or a short piano piece or something. And this one, a very good friend of mine, actually my best friend for many, many years, was a biophysicist, a guy whose research was so out there that maybe only 5 other people in the world could understand what he was doing. Just a brilliant guy who also was a huge new music fan and studied with Leonard Stein while he was working on his physics degrees years ago in California. He was also a poet, and he was a filmmaker and an artist and a cellist and a trombonist, and he played the piano. He was just a wonderful, wonderful polymath. We had gigantic conversations, and so he's been a go-to guy for me for text for a long time. And I wrote a series of songs called Broadwick songs, because that was the first song cycle I'd done with nothing but Malcolm's work. And one of those, I think it was the very first one of those songs, was the one that Andrew just did now. And through this, of course, I got to meet Andrew as well. And Andrew's a terrific guy. I've not met him in person yet, but we've had conversations. We've had email conversations. I'm hoping the time will come that we'll get to meet in person someday, Andrew. Kudos.
I want to sing your beat songs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you done beat. I've got a new, this summer while we were all quarantined, something came over me, and I thought, why hasn't anyone ever written anything over the top of the of any of the movements of any of the Bach cello suites? So I wrote an Ave Maria over the top of the prelude to the G major suite. I'll be sending that to you.
Okay, great. Great. Glad to do it.
And David, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay. I teach at Hunter College. I'm a composer, a pianist, a bunch of other stuff when someone asks me to do it. I guess I've been writing primarily vocal music, theatrical music. I've actually got a Zoom opera being premiered next week, which is kind of bizarre and marvelous. I don't even quite remember how long you and I have been on each other's orbits, Rob. It's we hooked up in some of the earlier days of Composer's Voice, but I've known Andy even longer because Andy and I went to college together a long time ago. Lived next door to each other. We'll occasionally have conversations entirely in improvised vocalese. A lot of my vocal music was written originally for Andy. And so this particular piece, I don't think that this was the first 15 minutes of fame I had, I had submitted to. But when I saw Andy was doing one, well, of course, I had to submit something to that. And Epoxy Margaret is those two words are drawn from a cartoon by Dan Ferraro, the comic strip, the panel strip Bizarro. In the panel, it's a gentleman saying to his wife that he didn't know why these kids all wore helmets, on their bikes and skateboards. He had fallen off his bike lots of times when he was a kid, and he was none the worse for it. Banana artichoke Epoxy Margaret. The idea being that he had suffered some brain damage or something. In any case, my daughter you saw that in the cartoon collection and used the words Epoxy Margaret as a swear for years when she was a kid. Oh, Epoxy Margaret. So when she was frustrated. And so this is where the idea came from, to set those words as a piece for Andy. And, you know, he has done them more than justice.
And, you know, and just to sort of do a segue here. So, David, if I remember correctly, you actually presented Andy on Composer's Voice concert at Jan Hus when he premiered it here in New York.
That is correct. That's right. It was, that 15 Minutes of Fame was premiered on a concert that you allowed me to guest curate.
And yeah, and you know, to sort of pivot, I wanted to bring in Jonathan. You know, as we were setting this up, you spoke a little bit about just sort of like this iteration of 15 Minutes of Fame. We've been doing it. We've done a couple of these now on virtually online. And so you know, first of all, why don't you just tell me about yourself and a little bit about your piece, but also like, what's your experience of having it in, you know, presented in a different format?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Jonathan McNair. I'm the Ruth Holmberg Professor of American Music at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. It's a mouthful. I've known Andy White since my days in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Cleveland Institute of Music, where he studied and I studied. We didn't know each other well at the time, but we were certainly aware of each other. And I knew that Andy really, really loved performing new music. And when I saw this call, I knew I had to do it. This is the first and only 15 Minutes of Fame I think I've submitted to, and I was really fortunate and glad to have Andy pick this song. Andy and I have collaborated since on other cycles of songs of mine. In fact, I wrote one for him to commemorate the centennial of the end of World War I, and he came to Chattanooga as a guest artist and performed it. It was fantastic. This song is a text by Philip Appelman, Kharma, Dharma, Pudding and Pie. I mean, it's comic. I read it. I've known that poem for a long time, and I wrote off to get permission and thought, man, I've got to do this someday. And I don't normally write kind of quasi-Broadway style, but once in a while, you know, and this just felt right for the text. And when he said that he could do self-accompaniment, I thought, why not just go full corny and do the clap, snap, tap thing? So it was just a lot of fun. And the virtual performance, sorry I was a little late slipping into this part because I was listening to Andrew perform, and it was a 30-second delay or something. So, but it was great because, you know, I couldn't be there at the church when he premiered it. And like others have said, I just appreciate his repeat performances of these songs. And Rob, just what a great concept this is. And you know, I did one of your 60 by 60 events at UTC a number of years ago, and it went over very well.
Thank you so much. I mean, I guess I should just mention that. So 15 Minutes of Fame, for everyone out there, is actually a spin-off of my original idea called 60 by 60, which is 61-minute electronic works played back-to-back for an hour, which is a wild show in itself, and I definitely recommend people to go see that. We collaborated in dance and all that and so forth. But it was all electronic, and so many people had been like, oh, you got to do this with musicians, live, acoustic, and so forth, of which, you know, 60, yeah, I don't know if that would work. But, you know, we started doing these things with 15, of which have been, you know, a great hit. I was, you know, and Andy, I got to thank you, too, amongst all these composers. This set is, first of all, it's an awesome set. You picked a fabulous set to play. I encourage everybody to go see the Jan Hus performance, like all in one block, because not all 15 tend to arc and structure themselves as a cohesive whole, which was always my idea with 60 by 60, was to have that always. And you know, that has been successful with some musicians and not successful, but you definitely nailed it. In this particular format, I don't know if we've done that arc justice, but I encourage everybody to go see the performance Jan Hus. Meanwhile, I don't want to skip anybody. We did skip him. I just wanted to bring him in. Stephen, are you around?
I'm here.
Yeah, welcome. Hi,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Great. We're doing good. Why don't you also just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wrote for Andy?
Well, like some of the other guys on the panel here, I'm still in Cleveland. I haven't gotten out yet, but met Andrew. He was in our Cleveland Composers Guild. We did an art song concert. I think it was in 2008, and he was our male vocalist and did a fantastic job on that. But I teach at Cleveland State University and a couple other smaller colleges in the Northeast Ohio area, and I, like you were talking about earlier with keeping it simple, I picked the Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd," and I didn't want to get in the way of that in terms of music. So it's based on the Overtone series. So if you listen to all the pitches that Andrew's singing, that drone that he played on the keyboard there was kind of the fundamental note, and then we heard him going up a perfect fifth, and then to a fourth and a major third, and so forth. And he just hits all those different places, and it's kind of a quasi chant. I wanted to keep it kind of true to that idea of sacred, an ancient piece, and at the same time, I wanted it to be exciting. But there's definitely some word painting in there. If you look at some of the words that he hits in there, it definitely paints that, especially the word evil. I think that's the tritone there. So, but fantastic job, Andrew, as always, and it sounded great. And it's amazing what you can do with just a fantastic singer and one fundamental note.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the piece. It's been
enjoyed it.
Yeah, Andrew, and I mean, as we can, I think, see throughout, the show, there's a lot of connectivity, and I think that's been kind of the strength of this 15 Minutes of Fame in general, is sort of the connectivity and sort of branching out, not only like bringing in old, but sort of highlighting the new and stuff like that, and it works out really great. I think. If I may say so, it's a reflection of both basically how you approach music and your career.
Yes, it is. I've always felt that, there was, when I went to the Cleveland Institute of Music, there was a graduation ceremony at the end of every year. And there were some speakers who said some things that impressed me. And one of the things was, okay, you're getting this education. This is giving you skills that other people do not have. And how are you going to make the world a better place with these skills? And so I've always felt, and this was another thing. And David, I hope you don't mind if I tell this story. David had written a piece for a soprano at our school, and he poured his heart out into that piece and wrote the absolute best piece he could possibly. He spent a lot of time on it, and he gave it to her, and she said she didn't like it, and she never performed it. And I just thought that I would never do that to anybody. If they write me a piece, I'm going to sing it. If I can. Now, if it's written for an ensemble of instrumentalists that I can't, cajole into doing it, then that's another thing. But you
make a best effort.
These are all pieces I can do because it's just me. My feeling about it is that I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility as a singer towards the development of the art form. If new pieces are not written for the art form becomes anachronistic, and it dies. And I have a responsibility to composers' music. Just is notes on the page. It doesn't have life until somebody performs it. And I've just always felt that it's my responsibility to bring life to those notes so that the music can be heard, if for no other reason, so that the composer can find out if the piece was, giving the impression or works the way that they intended it to. Composers need, so I've, always sung student works as well, because, students need to learn what works and what doesn't, and they're not going to learn if somebody doesn't sing it, or perform it. So, I've just always felt that is a part of my responsibility as somebody who went to school, developed these chops, and has the ability to do it, because other people don't. There are a lot of people with nice voices, but they can't learn this music.
Right.
Well,
I think that's also just I think there's a false sort of idea that, like you said, you have a good voice or you play your instrument well and so forth, and that's all that you need for your career. And it isn't. There's a host of other, skills and things that sort of make it all come together. And it's necessary. So with that said, we have primed up a performance of one of your colleagues, if I remember correctly. It's Darleen Mitchell, and this is a performance there, right?
No, it was given. This particular performance was given at Kansas State University.
Okay.
The whole project, it was Walt Whitman had his 200th anniversary of his birth in 2019, and so the premiere performance of this recital was a recital of nothing but new works on texts of Walt Whitman, and Darlene's set was one of those, one of the sets on that recital. And we performed it here at UNK, and then we performed it also at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and then we performed it again at Kansas State University in January. So this is a performance from January of 2000.
Excellent. And Darleen, and there you are.
Hello.
Hi, great to meet you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wrote these?
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, so my schooling was at DePaul, Northwestern, and then my PhD from the University of Chicago, where I studied with Ralph Shapey. I've taught probably about 40 years at the university college level, taught music theory and composition. And the final job I had teaching was at the University of Nebraska in Kearney. And actually I retired from there in 2014 as a professor emerita. And of course, that's where I met Andy. I think he joined the faculty in about 2005.
2006.
Pardon me?
Yes, 2000. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. 2005. No, you're right. 2005.
Okay. And it kind of was my practice set with each new faculty member, performer faculty who joined. I would write something for them and hopefully give them an opportunity for performance elsewhere. Some of my colleagues, I got a performance in New York and Boston and various places. So I wrote a piece for Andy the year he arrived for baritone, tuba, and piano. And we performed it several times for the College Music Society chapter meeting in South Dakota and for the national meeting in San Antonio that year, and then a few other times as well. I really like Andy's voice. I especially just love his falsetto and his ability to move across this wide range. And also, Andy has an acting background that he doesn't talk a lot about, but it's obvious watching him, his facial gestures, his hand gestures. He puts a lot of expression into all of the music that he sings. And it can be funny or it can be serious. and I love all of that. Okay? So I wrote the set, the Walt Whitman songs, for the reason that it was his bicentennial, and we performed the whole set several times. Actually, in 2020, the first one in January was, as he alluded, was at Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas, and then at the end of the month, February 29th, we performed them at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, and then on March 1st at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. After that, like everybody else, I've had 4 concerts canceled. So that was kind of the last concert I've done, in these times. It's been a hard time for performers as well as composers and actors and singers and, everybody in the music business and in the art business. So these songs that I set were from his Civil War poems. Okay? And a lot of people are familiar with his poems, but the Civil War poems can be very dark. And it's obvious that he was very serious about war and the effects of war. In the text, he describes just terrible things. He arrives at the camp. First of all, I have to say that he was too old to serve in the Civil War, but his brother wasn't. His brother was conscripted, and he was very worried about his brother. So he volunteered as a medic assistant in the war. And so he describes in these poems arriving at the camp and seeing the men laying on the stretchers with various wounds. He describes the faces that are ghastly and swollen, and the dead with their arms tossed wide. And he even rails against he calls it look down fair moon. So he's railing against the moon, against the heavens, for causing this terrible outbreak. Here in the U.S., the Civil War is the only war that was ever fought on our shores. And so people here are not as aware of what war does unless you have a family member who was served in the military. And so his descriptions are very ghastly. It's somebody who has seen what war does and sees the terrible effects, and he expresses them so widely. It's like his own form of PTSD. And that's one of the reasons of his really very negative attitude towards war, is why I like the poems.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, so what we're going to do is we're going to perform that piece. It's one of the recordings, mm-hmm. And when we come back, we're also just going to switch paces a little bit and talk a little bit about what's next, and like part of like I've been talking about is doing 15 minutes of fame on this a different format, but there are other things that are going on. I think Art mentioned where I'm always brewing something, and we'll be talking a little bit about the Turn Up Festival. But meanwhile, let's play In the Daybreak, Gray and Dim, 3 Whitman songs. This is that from that. By Darleen Mitchell. Thank you.
The
Beautiful, beautiful piece. Amanda, I love it. Darleen, sorry. My brain is definitely fuzzy.
Thank you. And he did a wonderful job. Wonderful rehearsal.
Andrew, thank you so much. This is, well, more, right? I mean, we'll, I think I can say this. We're going to be having you on the Turn Up Festival now as well.
Wonderful.
And yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun adventure. We've got 10 musicians already lined up, maybe 11. And we're going to be doing these hour-long concerts and talkbacks with the composer and the musician. So you'll, be showing us your expertise, and then having like kind of a masterclass afterwards. But you know what? We can have. Where's Kay? She can tell us so much more about this.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Kay.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
So, Kay, this is Andrew. He's
yes.
He's going to be with us.
Voice. Yes, it's just so much of a variety, and a lot of really funny songs, and also a lot of really serious songs. So your voice is amazing to depict every single emotion perfectly. So congratulations, great performance.
Thank you.
So Rob, you want me to just introduce myself to start with? Oh, well, he's gone. I guess I will be the host now. So my name is Kei He, and I'm the director, one of the organizers for Turn Up Multimedia Festival. And now we're doing Turn Up Online since the pandemic hit. That everything goes crazy, and our new music community is kind of upside down. So we need to figure something out to really help rebuild the new music community and then get it back up on track. So currently I'm teaching at the Fred Fox School of Music at University of Arizona. And we have Mike here. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little more?
Well, hello again. Yes, I'm back. So we're doing 10 concerts. We've got some really wonderful performers lined up already, and we're accepting calls or accepting scores for performers to consider for performance. I believe we have 10 performers lined up. So over the next several months, and then hopefully even beyond the pandemic, we'll continue to do this Turn Up Online Music Festival in collaboration with virtual concert halls. So we have a couple of calls that are already up. We've just finished one for Sam Wells for trumpet. And joining us now is Drew Whiting. Drew is a great saxophonist and from Wisconsin. He was also a guest artist at Electronic Music Midwest last year. He's a Yamaha artist. So composers out there, if you have works for saxophone, please send them in. You can submit at newmusicengine.org. You can also find a link to submission at turnupfestival.org. So Drew, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Hey there.
Could you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're joining us for Turn Up Online Festival?
Right. Well, thank you both for having me. So if for those of you who don't know me, I'm Drew Whiting. I'm a saxophonist. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh, where I teach saxophone and music theory, amongst other things. And I'm really excited to be a part of this festival. I love the mission of the festival, and especially because I do a lot of electronic music. I do a lot of new music, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the submissions and seeing what I could potentially play in a little less than 2 months.
Yeah, and I was just going to look that up. The deadline for you is fast approaching. Right?
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure those of you out there that are interested in submitting to Drew, that you get your submissions in by November 1. Mm-hmm. November 1st is the deadline for submissions to the Drew Whiting call. And then we have another one already up, also on the Music Engine, for a wonderful bassoonist, Dana Jessen. And the submission deadline to apply for her is November 8th. So one of the things that Turn Up Festival does is it creates a lot of really great opportunities to bring composers and performers together. We hope in a meaningful way, as the 15 Minutes of Fame brought together Andrew White and composers and all of the other Vox Novus projects. So, Drew, can you just? And by the way, did I say you were in Michigan or something earlier? Because I know you're in Wisconsin.
I'm originally from Michigan, so
okay.
You're.
Anyway, but could you just talk a little bit about maybe why you decided that you wanted to participate in the Turn Up Festival and what attracted you to this project in particular?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I really believe in the mission of the festival, and I think that taking the time to go through and read all the great information that's on the website, that'd be good for anyone who's considering to submit to this. And I started playing electroacoustic music. I mean, I did it through college and things like that. But really, once I arrived here at UW Oshkosh, I have a few really amazing colleagues here: Ed Martin, John Mayrose, and Nathan Edwards, who all have written me pieces, and so they kind of inspired me to pursue this medium. And the more I got to go to different festivals and really go around the country playing this music, I just really love this community. I think these are just the best people. As I of course I go to saxophone festivals and do all that, but I love going to electroacoustic festivals. And so when Kay started this the Turn Up Festival, I was immediately interested in it, and again, I think it's a great mission, and of course, I just love this music, and I love the people here. So that was really my why I was just so enthusiastic. It's like, yes, absolutely, I have to do this.
Yeah, the mission of inclusivity and providing opportunities during this time to collaborate in new and interesting ways is, I think, one of the most interesting things and sort of welcoming things about the festival. For composers out there that are submitting, you want to tell us kind of what type of music you're drawn to as a performer, typically?
I just really enjoy works that allow me to, I guess, have a wide range of freedom in terms of expression. And so that could be anything from a text score to a graphics score or traditionally notated music, but I improvise quite a bit as well. So improvised works I really enjoy. I think the things that just that I'm really drawn to are things that allow me to just really explore different modes of expression. And so that's when it comes to submissions, I just really love to see what's out there and see what's kind of different and interesting about the work. So.
And Kay, you want to just take a few minutes and tell everybody a little bit more about where Turn Up comes from, and about the website and things along those lines.
Sure. So I started Turn Up Multimedia Festival for Equality 3 years ago. And when I was in Austin, Texas, when I was a grad student there. I, as a female, as a composer, as a foreigner, I truly believe this mission that, we wanted to bring more equality and more positive thoughts into this field. But right now, since the pandemic and my third year events are all got canceled at just, a couple weeks ahead of the time. And I got really depressed, actually. I got really sad. And along with all of our team members, and we have been working, to put on, 3 really big multimedia shows for about, the entire year. And in the last minute, every single one got canceled. So I was thinking about, okay, if this is going to be a short term, then I can just hang in there and get through, right? So I didn't really start to do anything since, Rob contacted me. And that was probably 3 or 4 months ago. And then that's half of a year passed. There's still not a lot of things coming back on track. And because the current situation is still not really promising, so I started thinking about, okay, so if I really wanted to do something as in action, not just sitting around the house and then, wish this pandemic is going to pass, as soon as possible, which is probably not going to happen. So I was thinking, yes, I should do something as in action and to be really positive to bring back the community as much as I can. So we recruited Mike. So Mike and Rob and me, we three start this Turn Up Online. So we try to promote a lot of things. So the first thing we're trying to promote is new music. And the second thing is we're going to promote is new music performers. And another thing we're trying to attract is the new music audience. So those three things are really broke in pieces during the pandemic, and Turn Up Online is really trying to provide a platform and spotlights for these things to be reconnected.
Yeah, that's really great, Kay. And Rob, you brought in a great deal of experience and past success. Can you talk about how sort of that mission of Vox Novus and where you see this online move with our wonderful partners at Virtual Concert Hall, how you see these things connecting together?
Right. Well, so Vox Novus has always been basically to champion and highlight contemporary music, the creators of it, the musicians, and the artists that seek out new music for their art, whether it be dance or video or so forth. And so that's always been the main thrust of what we've done. And we've done it through several different programs where the more composers that we can present to the largest audiences that we can do, that's what we do. And we don't really, there's no bones about it, and I don't try to water things down. I don't try to mix it up. I remember when I first started, and I was talking about composers' voice concerts, and everybody's like, "Oh, so you have Bach and Beethoven, and then you play something." I was like, "No, we do only new music. Period. Done. Only living composers." And so this has been kind of the mission of Vox Novus. And then, so if anybody hasn't figured out, I took a little bit of a break from doing it. We've been around for more M&Ms. I've been getting more M&Ms is what I've been doing, and it's been great.
And I'll just stop and say hi, Jonah.
Jonah, say hi. Hi.
Great night.
And it's been absolutely awesome, and I like being a dad. For a long time, I always thought of my music as my children and stuff like that, and put my whole heart into contemporary music. And anyway, we all grow older, and so I took a little bit of a break, and then break. It's been almost 4 years ish. How old are you? 3 And so I kind of have been taking like a time out during these 4 years.
Circling back, Rob, about something you just said though a while ago about sort of trying to present as many composers as possible. I think that's also a really important part about Turn Up Festival. With Vox Novus, of course, it's the 60 by 60 series. I don't know how many thousands of composers have submitted or been presented, how many mixes were done, over 100 of the 15 minutes of fame, just like the what Andrew just performed with all different types of performers. And really the Turn Up Festival is what we're trying to do in that direction as well. We've got 10 performers already lined up. I've mentioned Sam Wells, and of course Drew's here, Dana Jessen, but we also have Misha Penton for a vocalist, a soprano. We're really excited about Lynn Bechtold, a real big name in the new music world, violinist. And finally, a real champion of new music for years is Craig Holtgren. So there are a couple of others that we've lined up, but these are ones we can announce at this point. So I just want to encourage everybody, composers out there that are looking to submit, to make sure that you're visiting either turnupfestival.org, newmusicengine.org, or checking us out on Facebook and Twitter. There's the website, turnupfestival.org, because it seems like daily new opportunities are being added, new directions are, new things are starting. So please stay connected. You can also email Kay on turnupfestival.org at any time if you have any questions, or if you if you have any questions. Kay, anything else you'd like to say?
I think you summed it all.
Great. Well, I think that's like the end of the show, perhaps, right? So, is that right, Rob? Are we? Yeah, well, you're muted, so.
I think we're cooked.
Great. Is Andrew? I don't know if Andrew's still in the room, but maybe we can bring him on just to say hi and thanks, or maybe he's signed off.
Here. No, I'm still here.
Yeah, and I think on behalf of all of the composers today, let me just say thank you again. That was just a really wonderful concert, and loved hearing you sing live, and loved everything about it. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your wonderful music that has enriched my life and the lives of every audience I've sung them to.
Great. And
thank you, Andrew.
And Drew, we're looking forward to hearing you in a month or so, right?
Right. No, I'm really looking forward to this, and it'll be the first. I was thinking about this. This will be the first concert I've played in months, and so this is really giving me something to look forward to, and I just couldn't be more excited.
Great.
Yeah. I want to say thank you, Andrew, for giving us a great concert today. It's just wonderful, wonderful performance. And Drew, we are really looking forward to working with you with this virtual concert. It's going to be amazing. And I'm really hoping all the composers out there to consider to submit for Drew, because he's a wonderful saxophonist.
Well, thanks so much.
And look for Andrew's call coming up as well. We'll be doing that. Probably that's going to be. Oh yeah. So did everybody say we're doing 10 concerts over? Okay.
Yes, we did.
Rock
on.
On.
The first session, it will be 10. We're already lining up, and then we will see that what's the result, and we'll maybe take some modifications based on our experience with this first set, and then we are thinking about to launch more, maybe another 10.
More. Great, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody coming and seeing 15 Minutes of Fame and hearing a little bit about the Turn Up Festival and being introduced to, Darleen too as well. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the future.
Bye-bye.